first words out of your mouth could be your last. Make sure you leave a lasting impression. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, just like when you meet somebody, first impression could be a last impression. The first words out of your mouth in a speech is the beginning of the speech. Think of it as the first act of a concert. The first act sets the stage. What are some good elements for a beginning of a speech? First of all, it needs to get the attention of the audience. Think about it for a second. The audience members, especially for us at 7:30 in the morning, could be half asleep, could be drinking that coffee, or could be wondering about the next cup of coffee. Also, they could still be thinking about the speaker or the joke that was just told. You need to get the attention of the audience. Second thing is, tell them what the speech is about. I just told you my speech is about the beginning of speeches. It grounds the audience. When I started my speech with my first words, it could have gone anywhere. But the fact that I told you this is about the beginning of speeches grounds you. You're like, oh, okay, that's what he's going to talk about. You know where this is going. The third seems kind of silly and trivial, but it is very important. The beginning is just that, just the beginning. Should be only 5 to 10% of your speech. Don't keep going. Move to the body. Do the beginning and move to the body. It's done its purpose. Set the stage. Move to the body. The first 3 points were about the mechanics. The last point is about you. Remember, you're beginning your speech. Eye contact, enthusiasm, draw them into you. The focus needs to be on you. What are some techniques? There are a variety of different techniques. Some people like some of the others. But here's a few. You could start off by telling the audience why the topic is relevant. We are Toastmasters. They give speeches. I told you in my beginning, the beginning of speech is important and leave a lasting impression. It's important to you guys. I told you that. Tell the audience, why is this important? You could also try an alluring opening. Try this one. I like to lay around the house all day. I don't care if you're around, as long as you feed me. I also like to play with myself. Oh, by the way, I chase my tail and I purr once in a while. I'm a cat. That could be a pretty alluring introduction about a speech about a cat. But here's the point. Like a good magician's trick, your mind was going, where is the speech going? And suddenly, there was a turn and you got hooked. It hooks you in, just like a good magician. Show this hand, but the trick happens here. But it hooks you in. You could also start off your beginning with a question, a rhetorical question, or a powerful statement. A shocking statement, rather. Do you know what you're doing right now could kill you? Uh-oh. What is he talking about? What am I doing that could kill me? Is it flipping the paper? Is it writing? No? That could be an interesting beginning to a speech about the recent studies that have been done about a sedentary lifestyle of us sitting around all day and not walking around enough. You could also use a quote. The quote could be from a friend, a family member. I personally like to use quotes from famous people. An eye for an eye will eventually make the world blind. Is attributed to Mahatma Gandhi. That could be a great beginning for a speech about nonviolence or talking about the current issues in the world, the wars that are going on. You could also start with a story. Now, the key with the story is make it personal. Let's try these following ones. Driving to New York could be a long drive. Okay, that is the beginning. Or, I recently drove to New York, straight shot, without stopping, for 7.5 hours. See, difference. The difference, the second one is, you're going, you mean you didn't stop me for a bathroom? You want to know what happened? It's a personal story, it connects me with you. You could also acknowledge the occasion, which are typically beginnings you can use for specific, okay, like a wedding or a toast that you're doing. The example, in this case, is for a groundbreaking of a school. 7 years ago, they told us it couldn't be done. 7 years ago, they told us our kids have to go to a certain 5-year-old school. Today, as we stand here breaking this ground, can you imagine? You're tapping into the enthusiasm of the audience already there. There are many other techniques one can use, humor, jokes, what have you. These are just a few. Now, we talk about the good, and the title maybe applies, right? Let's talk about what not to do in the beginning of your speech. The first item I've seen people do, not just in Toastmasters, but especially outside of Toastmasters. I'm sorry, my introduction wasn't quite right. I'm sorry, I don't have handouts for you. I'm sorry I was running late. Don't apologize in the beginning. Okay, whatever happened, happened. Forget about it. Start your speech. Start your beginning. Here's why. When you're up here giving a presentation or a speech, you are on a podium. You are the authoritative figure. Now, whether you believe or not, people perceive you as the expert. You're up there. When you're giving a speech, you start off here, the audience's attention, focus, and slowly over the speech, you start to lose them a little bit. You might bring them back, but over the time, you may drift. Eventually, you may pick it back up, but there is a drop. By starting off with a negative, or acknowledging, or saying sorry, in the mind of the audience member, you're saying, oh, you weren't important enough. So I didn't take the time to get there in time or prepare myself. So in their mind, instead of starting here, you're starting down here. So what happens is, that's a hard climb to make from there to up here. By the way, this particular speech has a separate presentation. You don't see any presentation in front of you, or slides in front of you. I could have started my speech off by saying, guys, my printer ran out of ink, so I couldn't print the presentation for you, I'm sorry. Can you imagine the effect of that versus what I started with? Oh, by the way, those will be in the email at the end of the speech. You will have the slides. The second thing is, don't make it boring, your beginning. Make it interesting. Remember we talked about enthusiasm? I could have started my introduction by saying, this is a speech about beginning of speeches. Not so exciting. Now here's some tips. When you're giving your speech, many people write the speeches, some people memorize them, whatever. Make sure whether you memorize anything else or not, you memorize your introduction. Remember I said enthusiasm, eye contact, and things like that? If you're reading your speech, the first words out of your mouth could be your last. No eye contact. I cannot put emotion into it. So memorize the beginning of your speech. It's very important. Second thing is, many times it's better to write the introduction after you're done writing the body of your speech. I know myself when I've done this, because if you start your introduction, you start writing your body, you could drift off into a different direction, which you think is more interesting, and your beginning may be left behind. So it's best to write your body of speech and go back and write the beginning. When I've done this, when I've written the beginning, if you will, I have gone back and modified to reflect more what my body is about. Third is the technique I use, whether other people use it or not, I'm not sure. I tend to sandwich my beginning. If you notice, all of my beginnings start off with a hook, we talked about that, then it goes to your acknowledgement, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and then I tell you what my speech is about. You can use that framework if it suits you. We're all here to become better speakers. But mastering the technique of a good beginning, you will go a long way to achieving our goals. Mr. Toastmaster.